Yeah, it was interesting. Like you said, like I was told it's gonna be 5 years, 5 years, you'll get the hang of it in 5 years. And I'm like, why should it take 5 years for me to get the hang of teaching? I've been in education for a long time. I've watched teachers. 5 years for me to get the hang of it, to find my groove. I want to find my groove like the first year. I figure it takes a year. You get through it, work out the kinks the next year, right?
A few years ago, I started writing a fictitious story based on my time as an educator. It is called Taught, and the story was partially inspired out of anger and frustration fueled by burnout. Okay, actually, it was more than partially inspired by anger and frustration. But Taught has also become a vehicle for me to tell what I thought at the time, and in some ways continue to think, was and is the real story of teaching. I now realize that my perspective is not everyone's perspective, but there are some pieces of Taught that resonated with many educators. This podcast is an extension of that story, and I, a former teacher, will interview other educators asking them to share how they really feel about the current state of education. Why are so many teachers burn out? Why are so many, like me, leaving the field? We likely won't solve any problems or come up with any solutions, but we can create a community of voices that maybe begin the conversation around how educators can take back teaching. I'm Melissa LaFour. Welcome to Taught, the podcast. Just a reminder, this is part 2 of Michelle's episode. If you missed part 1, it is season 2, Michelle, part 1. Hope you enjoy today's episode.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like you said, like I was told it's gonna be 5 years, 5 years, you'll get the hang of it in 5 years. And I'm like, why should it take 5 years for me to get the hang of teaching? I've been in education for a long time. I've watched teachers. 5 years for me to get the hang of it, to find my groove. I want to find my groove like the first year. I figure it takes a year. You get through it, work out the kinks the next year, right? And then like you said, if I didn't have the support of my school community, if I didn't have support of, my family and my friends and my colleagues, like I always have found mentors, in the district or even in like the parent leadership program that I've partnered with. I find mentors, and I had that support, and also, I have strong faith, and I felt God telling me that it was okay. It was okay to leave. It was okay to take care of myself. It was time to move on. And I needed that validation, not only from people that I love and trust in my family and people that I look up to and respect, in the professional community, but also importantly, for God to say, yes, this is your calling. And yes, your calling is changing. It's changing, and it's okay to move on. I release you from this guilt.
And this comes up a lot on the podcast too, is that if you choose a lot of times to do what you need to do for you, there is guilt associated with that. Even admitting that you're in burnout sometimes
Yes.
brings guilt. We feel like we were weak or,
Mhm.
and this isn't about weakness or strength. It is about chronic stress and
Mhm.
what the damage that does over time. And if you are dealing with human beings, especially when you have such a big role in their success and moving them forward in life, that's already going to have moments of stress. But
Yeah.
when the system itself creates an environment that chronic stress is part of the job description, we've got a problem.
Yeah, we do have a problem. And, it's important for us to find a way to balance supporting each other. How do we
Yeah.
care for each other as educators, the whole staff? Um, from our staff that help with the facilities of our school all the way up to the staff that leads our school. how do we care for each other? Because it's not only teachers that are feeling burned out, right?
Absolutely.
I'm close friends with a custodian, and custodians work really hard, and they work really hard on keeping the school environment clean and running, and I believe that if I worked at a school where we we really actually liked each other. We do things outside of school together. We looked forward to the end of the year, parties and celebrations. I like legit made friends with people there. I was able to sit in my boss's office and just build a relationship with him and just talk with him or her, and it was like an open door, open heart school, right? Not that everybody was, we're all besties. It wasn't like that, but we actually liked each other and the
Right.
kids could see it. And there was room for creativity, right? There's room for me to work with these students and guide behavior in a way that was creative. My administrators allowed me to do that. And so I found myself stuck in a position. I'm going to say stuck. Well, I wasn't stuck, but I found myself in a position like getting to the point where I've worked all these years, 20 years to get here, and it wasn't what I thought. Right. And so I'm like, where's that creativity? Where's that play? I need that again. So I moved past all this and now I'm at a point where it's like, okay. So I've applied for jobs. Like, yeah, I applied for jobs. I didn't get a fifth grade position. I'm like, that's okay. My best friend texted. I was happy because I was hoping you get the job with the easier math anyway. Remember I told you that? So I'm waiting for a second grade position that I applied for. And it's like, I still have this like I'm trying to release it, but there's also this this thought that well, people talking about me, when I make it through the whole year, they're gonna hire me, and they're like, oh, she had another breakdown, So it's like I have to release that and not worry about because I know
Yeah.
my reputation precedes me in the district, right?
Yeah.
I've done a lot of the stuff, and I'm good at what I do, great at what I do, and I love what I do. I love working with the students, with the families, with the staff. I love working with adults and help guiding, facilitating learning together with our
Right.
community. That's my jam. So wherever I end up in the fall, that's where I'm supposed to be. And I'm happy about it. Will I go back to my previous position? I don't think it's the healthiest thing for me, which is why I'm ready to move on and release it to someone who I feel, or to release it to someone who is the best person for that position because it's not me. And that's okay. And I'm okay with it now. It's
Yeah.
okay that it's not me. I did what I had to do, and I have to say, I still can let go a little bit. Yes, I am tutoring that sixth grade student this summer. I just finished some reading lessons last week. Because he needs some recovery. And it's like I'm just do it. I'm just teaching the way that I feel led to teach.
I love it.
Thank you.
So, what advice would you give to especially first year teachers
Mm,
experiencing some of that chronic stress and potentially heading towards burnout? Because won't be too long. As of this interview, it is July 21st. Your
yeah,
interview probably won't come out until the fall. And
yeah,
this would be a great time for a lot of first year teachers. They're going to be in the muck of it, feeling pretty
yeah,
stressed. What's your
yeah, they
advice?
will. Well, my advice first would be know the classroom you're going into. What type of classroom is it? Right. So before you apply to a classroom, research it. I should have researched what a resource room actually entails. Like, yes, I sat with the resource room teacher and we talked about it, but I didn't really know all the moving pieces, right? So know and research what room you're going to apply for. When you apply, research it. I
Yeah.
wish I would have researched what the resource room is. I wish I would have spent more time with the previous teacher. I wish I would have um, done more job shares. Like I had a beautiful best mentor. Our district provides a best mentor for first year teachers, right? So the best mentor comes and oh, I forgot. So on top of all that, on top of everything I said, you also have like, 4 observations from your principal as a first year teacher. And then you also have observations from your best mentor. And you're doing all these observations. So you have to do that. So that's in addition. But like know what classroom you're going to apply for, research it. Find mentors who can help you. Look at them, watch them teach. Also, like, ask your if your district does provide a mentor and they give you your mentor at the beginning of the school year, like tell your mentor, like ask your mentor, what do I do? What are the points? Like, I hope I have the same mentor next year. I probably will. I'll have her. She is great. I'll probably just request her. And she tried to help me, but by the time it was too late, right? And so know the job that you're going to apply for, research it, find mentors, and ask so many questions. Ask questions, even ask questions that you don't even know you need to know so that you know what to expect. Um, Find a school that has a community that respects their administrators. It's leadership. Leadership is so important. It all starts from the top, and the leadership sets the
Tone.
standard. Leadership sets the culture and climate of the school. So ask about the culture and climate of the school. I applied to a school. I didn't get the position. I applied to a school where the principal was, on the video. I researched the school, and he said, at this school, we take care of each other, we take care of ourselves, and we take care of our school community. That's the type of school I want to be at. I want to be at a school that takes care of
Mhm.
me, of each other, and the school environment. So do your research, set
I think
yourself up for success.
that's really good advice because I've taught a few grades, taught in a few buildings, as you know, and there have been quite a few new teachers that come into buildings. And it can be a variety of different positions, but there are state standards for most positions. And sometimes they don't know what those standards are, and they don't know kind of what they're going to have to teach. And sometimes what they have to teach is challenging. And one of
Mhm.
the things that comes to my mind is there are health standards that you
Right.
get into some upper grades. And depending on the district that you're working in, sometimes you're the one that's teaching those health standards if they
Mhm.
don't have a nurse on staff that can come in and teach it. And if that's something that you are not comfortable with teaching, 13-year-olds for all kinds of
Uh-huh.
legit reasons,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
you need to
Yeah,
know
the
that.
family life and sexual health unit. Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's like
right.
sixth grade, honestly. That starts about sixth grade. And so
Hmm.
it's important. And I would also say ask for help. Ask
Yeah.
for help because asking for help is something that we model to our students. It's important for us to ask for help. It's important for us if you need to take a day off of work because you're feeling stressed, take that day off, you
Yeah.
know. Also I also, some of my mentors had said, and teachers have said, and maybe you too, but like partner with another teacher if you can, right? If you feel like you are not as strong in one subject area as another, then see if you can partner with another teacher. And so, yeah, I would think about what would I do differently. And so, like when I'm applying for jobs now, like I looked up second grade standards. I student taught in second grade, and I was like, oh my gosh, I loved that. Those little kids are so cute. And so that was great. I'm like, that's what my classroom's gonna be like. And it wasn't, but like, ask for help and know your strengths. And if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Don't apply. Do what makes your heart jump for joy and brings
Well,
out your strength and your creativity if you can. And if you can't, then try to create an environment where you can. And if you can't, then find a different classroom or position to go to.
it is a pathway to burnout to take a job in education that you do not want from the get
Yes,
go, for sure.
yes, yes.
So, it sounds like the new pathway forward for you is that you're applying for classroom positions, and you can do
Yeah,
that with your dual certification. Any other new
yeah.
pathways you want to share with us?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a new pathway, but I write. I love to write. Writing is also one of my passions. I write to inspire. I have an Instagram, handle your day. And So I
Which
like to
will
learn.
be in the show notes because it is very inspirational and it's good writing.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm working on an inspirational book with the same title. I also have some other things I'm working on. I want to work on a blog with the same name, and really want to showcase the strength of us humans as women living in this world, and how the strength of each other depends on us, on each other, and also with our male counterparts as well. I've had a lot of great mentors, and who are male, and my son's a male, and my partner's a male. So I don't want to discount them, and their help and support. I really want to showcase just the strength of women, the power that we have within ourselves that oftentimes we don't see. I'd like to showcase women in the community, women all over the world, not necessarily about what we are doing professionally, but how can we support ourselves internally, right? How can we continue to love ourselves, our hair, our skin, right? The way we talk, when so many times we are either pulling each other down or we are put down by society. So those are the things that I write about. I like to focus on creating that inner strength and that inner beauty, that strong mindset, right? Being like, I was reading the book that you gave me a long time ago called Power, um, by one of our he's no longer with us, but he was a monk, and he talks about like five power principles, and he talks about faith and mindset, being diligent, concentration, and insight. And I'm reading through this book again for the second time, and I'm trying to center myself. So as I'm writing, and I'm writing these new projects, and writing about how to encourage, embrace, and empower myself, and encourage, embrace, and empower other women, I'm trying to remember my faith, to be mindful, to concentrate, and to have insight. And the insight that I gained from other women, to share that with the world, and to hold that in my heart as well. So that's what I'm working on, and we'll see what happens.
You are very modest, and I'm going to out you just a little bit because Michelle also has a variety of, which none of them have been published, but a variety of children's literature, poetry
No.
books, and things that have accompanied, especially this is a podcast for educators, is to come in the next couple of
Oh,
years. Let's put it
yes.
out there now
That's
because
true,
I'll
that's
have
true,
you
that's
back
true.
on
Yes, I
when
do
you
have
get
about
to
8 or 10.
publishing.
Yeah, folks, yeah, I do have one that I'm working on in Amazon right now. It's called Orca and Moon Snails. My daughter Gabrielle, or her artist name is Gabby from Venus, so she's done all the pictures. And yeah, it's a beautiful, funny, fun, thoughtful poetry book, um, written in the voice of a child, and I'm excited for it to come out. And
And with activities for teachers to
oh yes,
teach
in the back of
and
every book, I
parents.
always have,
Yes.
there's always, like, I believe family engagement, right? Make sure it's always linked to learning, developmental, collaborative, interactive, right? And so, and at the back of every book, there's either like a lesson plan or an activity for families to do, for kids to do. It's important, in my opinion, for families to do things together, to work together, read together. That's how we develop relationships. And I'm excited about that. It makes me smile. I love kids. Yeah, I love reading to kids. So that's it. That's good. We'll see what comes out first. Which book
So
makes it?
right
Him or
now you
me?
can find her on Instagram, and
Okay.
as the other things come out, I will
Yeah.
feature them on the podcast here. So
Yes. 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 Yeah. Thank you so much, Missy.
okay, so I have a question for you now.
Yes,
We've
ma'am.
talked a lot about the things that didn't go right this school year. And it's not just your school year, right? It's many of us have these
It's
same
across,
things
it's
not go
across
right.
the world.
Boy, it really is. So if I could give you a magic wand, what is one thing you would change about education as a system to make it better for all the stakeholders?
That's funny you said that, and I wrote the answers. Um, so I'm going to push back on the magic wand, because if we just did a magic wand, then we wouldn't be learning and growing, developing together, right? So the system, taking time to build relationships with each other, really,
Back to
and
that
building
community.
relationships and creating cultures in classrooms in a school environment where we're learning together, like not only like academics and all that, but like who we are as individuals, taking time at the beginning to really, when we do our retreat, to really retreat into who are all of us as individuals. What do we like? What are our strengths, right? From the beginning, and like I said, and I'm basing this on a school I've worked at before for, almost 7 years as a dean. It's like trying to build that, like, if leadership can come to an understanding that they really do set the precedent to how this school is going to run. So, creating a culture of inclusivity, right? Where family engagement is just a practice that we do because it's important. Or equity is a practice that we do because it's important, because we just do it. It's not a box we check. It's not, oh, I have to do this one thing. It's, we provide interpreters for families who are multilingual, right? It's, we make sure that if we see a teacher that's stressed out or upset, we ask, how can I help, right? How can we help each other? I feel like it's important for families and teachers to have a voice together in the school, and in the district, and helping our superintendents and our district leaders understand what's going on in the schools. Our class sizes are increasing, our rooms are not increasing, right? The time is not increasing, right? So having those conversations with our district leaders about how we can really create care and community within our schools, so that good teachers or teachers who are just learning aren't leaving and getting burned out, that it's not affecting our health, right? And so if we are not in the trenches together, then we don't know what's going on in the schools. We can set laws and we can set these precedents and we can set these standards, but it's really the teachers and the students, and particularly the students who are trying to learn, and half of them are sitting in the classroom like a deer in headlights because they don't know what the hell is going on. And therein lies the problem. They don't know what's going on because they don't understand, because things are moving so fast, or they're in 7th grade and they still can't read, right? Or they have emotional regulation problems. And then we just, stick them in special ed, right? We stick our multilinguals in special ed, and special education is so important. It's so important to be able to fill the needs of those children individually, right? And partner with them so that it's not this negative connotation. Oh, you're in a special ed class, you're in a stupid class, right? I had to teach my kids, it doesn't matter that I said, this class is a gift to you. You get like 6-on-1 support. They're in there with like 30 kids. Yeah. This is your time. This is focused learning for you. This is a great thing. Changing that mindset of what special education is, changing the mindset of what a teacher is. We're there to support, to love on these kids, to facilitate learning. It's not top down. I am not the expert for this child's family and the community, understanding that their families are the experts for them and for their community and their child, and that we learn from them. That's the mindset, and that's the community we need to create in our schools.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of the points that you just made, I'm doing research right now for a future podcast that's going to be about teacher absenteeism, and which is a real issue right now.
Because we know when they're going to be out.
Well, I mean, there's two sides of it, right? But I found an article, and I'm not going to say who it's by or any more about it because I'm waiting for his permission to use the information from his article. But it's everything that you just said, which was essentially teachers and students, educators and students don't have absentee problems in buildings that have strong leadership with a supportive community. Bottom line.
That's
so
right.
A lot of what you just said. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And I remember, and I know I just need to interject because I need to give you your flowers. So like, I remember when I was a family engagement liaison at the school that we were working with together, you are the one that taught me but you were the one that modeled family engagement with your class, right? So I was the family engagement liaison. You were hosting monthly, right? Monthly potlucks with your families. So you'd invite your families in once a month. They'd come in, they'd bring food, right? And then
Yep.
you would teach them, you would facilitate learning on what you're teaching in the classroom at this time. So then we're walking around, we're eating, families are working on this and that and seeing what their kids are working on. So you were partnering with families together, right? And there was space allowed for you to do that. No one told you you can't do that, don't do that, right? You
No.
invited the families in. What'd you say?
No, nobody told me then that I couldn't. Then we had COVID and it was like, you are not bringing people in here
Right.
to eat. So,
Right. So pre-COVID, well, that's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Like you valued those families as experts. As educators, we have to believe that all families have the capacity to succeed.
Yeah.
All students have the capacity to succeed. And if they don't feel like they have it now, that they can get the tools, partnering with the community, partnering with us, so that they can build up that capacity, right? And so, if we got students sitting in class and teachers are burned out and they're stressed and they're grumpy with the students and students are sent to the dean, without having conversation because teachers are burned out and they've had it, just get out of here, get out, go to go to Miss Michelle, whatever. It's like there's no time really to like the teachers are burned out, kids are frustrated, right? And then things just the monkey wrench is in the engine and then the engine breaks.
Yep. I do want to say about those potlucks though, it was, I was not necessarily teacher at that time either because it was, here's the information. And then the parents, like, or the families, it wasn't just parents. Sometimes it was grandparents, brothers, sisters, but they are the ones that decided what they wanted to do with whatever the presentation was that I had. But it was a presentation and a collaboration, and then you take what you want. And then there was teaching that they did for me. I don't know if you remember this. It was, we're going to teach you how to eat real food, Ms. LaFleur. And my job was to eat whatever extremely spicy dish a very loving family brought in and not sweat and cry during my, and they would say, okay, this time we didn't make it spicy.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
But I mean, there was really, those mamas taught me a lot about cooking and about using spice and about, because I owned that, I'm like, I have no idea how to add the spice to our food, and
Yeah.
first it was just eat it, you'll get it by taste. I'm like, no, I I will not actually. um but it was nice to try to find the things that they could teach too. So to your point, that family engagement piece is not necessarily about the educator being the sage on the stage, right? It's
Mm,
about what those families bring as part of their culture that we can also learn from.
right.
Good
We
times.
are parents are their first teachers. They are their teachers, and
Yeah.
I say families, I interchange families. I say families because our students are raised by their family members. And it may be a mom or a dad, it may be extended, but they're all families. And sometimes it's the older ones helping and
Yeah.
raising, and so I I feel like we really have to do our work as educators on building these relationships with families so that we're not so that negative bias doesn't get in the way, so that we understand what these families are going through, so we understand if the student is being having early release 3 days a week for an hour, 3 days a week, because she has to go and help her family at the restaurant because they got to eat.
Right.
But then, teacher's mad. Oh, why are you never here? Why are you never here? It's because she's got to go help her family make money so they can eat.
Yeah.
And so, how do we meet them where they're at?
Well, that
And
kind
it,
of takes me into my next question, because, or my next thing for us to discuss, because I think that a lot of times, over the years, I began to wonder if sometimes teachers don't distance themselves intentionally sometimes
Mhm.
from their families and from their students because most educators experience some secondary, sometimes it's firsthand trauma directly due to being in education. And I think that maybe some teachers, educators get to that point where they just try to kind of keep that barrier up. And so I do ask my guests to share one of the moments where they either experienced a secondary or firsthand trauma, because when
Mm.
these things happen, they're heart-wrenching and jarring for us when they happen. And frankly, I don't want anyone to feel alone when it happens to them. And I do
Mm.
think it a lot of times it when it does happen, we don't talk about it
Yeah.
because it's awful to talk about. Um, so I don't want anybody to, so to your comfort level, I'd like you to share one of these. And honestly, I want the public at large to know that this stuff happens. It's very easy for teachers to be seen as these people who just sit behind a desk and grade papers. And the reality is we're taking in a lot, especially post, it was before the pandemic. I'm going to stop saying that everything got worse after the pandemic because this kind of thing was definitely bad before the
Mhm.
pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, so can you tell us about one of your experiences to your comfort level?
Can you expand on that? Is it just what
A
I
time,
experienced myself or what's a
well, no, a
student?
time that you experienced either secondary trauma because of what you experienced a family or student going through, or
Mm.
maybe even firsthand.
I'm not sure. I feel like I've kind of had, like, I know I spoke to, the panic, the anxiety, and, the tumor and feeling like I'm going to die, feeling like, I think, I don't know, secondary. For me, the trauma secondary was like thinking that I had to leave something that I loved, feeling like I had to leave um, my calling because it made me sick. And I thought, God, why would you give me a calling? And then it almost killed me to think that something that I know I'm meant to do and feeling like I couldn't do it, that I wasn't good enough. That was really hard for me. Um, I had a student last year who I worked really, really hard with on regulating her emotions in her mouth. And she would say things, mean things to kids, or, try to touch kids and things like that. And I saw the beauty in her, and I tried to guide her. I tried so hard, and we're really close. And I and another teacher, two other teachers, were good, safe adults for her. And she had these problems with lying and these problems touching and stuff. And we are really, really hard with her and with her family, And then it's like I had to have all these extra just to get her what she needed, just to get her a one-on-one to help guide her behavior. I had to have like 4, 5, 6 meetings, and they took forever. And I don't even know if she's got a permanent one-on-one now, but it's like that really hurts my heart to know that students are suffering, and there's all these hoops that we have to jump through just to get them what they need, and they need it now. And for me, that was just so traumatic and so stressful amongst everything else. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
I think that you have expressed this beautifully, something that happens quite often, which is when you see that this student needs this thing to be successful, and then you feel like you have to fight an uphill battle
Yeah.
to get
You
them what
try.
they need.
Yeah. And you work with your district, and you work with the families, and the family doesn't follow through.
Yeah.
And it's like, our classrooms are not dumping grounds for your child's behavior, right? So that's why it's very important that for me that I go back down to the little grades, the younger grades to help our families with this family engagement piece with these students. And so I just, that's, and I think about that and yeah, I'm like it brings tears to my eyes, right? Um, because I know that the student's going on, to the next grade, and I know I'll see the student again, and I love this. I love all my students. I literally love my students, and I will tell my students I love them if they tell me I love them, if they tell me they love me. I don't withhold that. Because students need to know that that they're loved, and that they have a home, and whether they have a home with their family or we create a home environment in school, but that's important to me that I create a home environment within the classroom so that they're free to be themselves, to laugh, to love, to not have to hide. We all have these hidden needs, and oftentimes students have hidden needs and they don't let them show. We have to find them, and they try to mask them, and they're told they're bad, or that they can't do this and they can't do that, and then they're isolated, and then they start self-harming, and they become depressed, and I've seen it over and over and over again. And or this we just have to do better. We just have to do better. And I've thought about many times being a principal, um, but I just don't know. Like, educational leadership is very important to me. I just don't want to lose touch with my families and my students in the classroom, you know? So anyway,
Well, I'm
that's
going to talk
I'm
about
not sure if I answered your question, but that's what I feel. To me, that was traumatic. That is trauma to me. That's trauma to me.
I'm going to talk about one of these families that you were just talking about that
Mhm.
maybe don't have the cultural resources or systemic understanding, but seem to kind of just be working against us rather than with us.
Yeah.
And I'm going to recount an experience that you and I both had that started out as an extremely traumatic moment for me and turned out to be funny. And then we're going to go into one of your funnies. At least I thought it was way after the fact. I thought it was funny. In the moment, I did not. But do you remember? I'm not going to name any names, but we had a family. They were from another country.
Mhm.
Fairly recently had moved to the district that we were in, but they had been living out of the country. However, everyone in the family spoke English fairly well. And as part of your, which this to me, if you're out there listening and you have any power in your school district, a family engagement specialist doing this kind of work is invaluable. You did home visits.
I did. Oh yeah. Oh, you're
Yeah.
right. Yes, I love that.
And you
It's
came to me because this kiddo was in my
oh
class, really, really smart kiddo,
yeah,
but
yeah,
was super behind because she had chronic
yeah,
absences. Like she would be
yeah.
gone for a week and a half. And I would say, "Where were you?" And she's like, "Yeah, she wouldn't tell me where she was at. Her mom wasn't, her family was not communicating back with me.
Mhm,
So she was very behind in math. I had sent math home with her. She had not done the math. And then we started seeing the absences again. And you said, well, let's get the math together and we'll go do a home visit. And you had called and they knew we were coming.
mhm,
So, so we get there and knock on the door for a while. Eventually, the girl actually let us in, gave me a hug, gave you a hug. You said, "Where's your mom?" She said, "She's in the kitchen." You
mhm,
said, "Okay." You yelled out to the mom. The mom said, "Yeah, I'm in here in the kitchen." And I said, "Well, can we go somewhere and work on this?" She and I were going to work on math while you talked to her mom about why she was missing so much school. So she takes me in the living room. You follow us in there. I
yeah.
sit down, we open up the math, all this stuff. And I had done a few problems. You're looking at pictures on the wall. And about the same time, you and I both see that less than 6 inches from my elbow, laying on the couch, is a gun.
No.
Yes. And I'm like,
Like,
Now this we were in a pretty big city where there was
We're
some gun
gonna accept the
violence.
gift.
Yes, and I'm like, this is it. This is it.
Oh
We're going
gosh, that was
down.
funny.
I'm waiting for
Oh god.
somebody who's up to no good to come and say,
Oh,
"Okay, ladies, you're out of
oh, it
here."
was
It was scary.
I just ignored it. I
And
was like, okay, note to self.
well, that was the great part. You're like, is it okay for me to come in there and talk to you? And mom says, yeah, you can come in. And you said, well, first thing we're going to talk about, why is there a gun on the couch?
I mean,
And I'm like, well, now we're really dead. Thanks for pointing it out. Maybe they didn't hadn't noticed, maybe I can get the gun. I don't know how to shoot a gun, but
I mean, if you see something, say something, right?
yes. And the mom was, oh, it's my son's. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
It's
I'm
a BB
like,
gun.
I
And I
am
was like,
not.
okay, it's a BB gun. We're good.
Yeah. So it ended up being a BB gun.
Yeah,
So, but it was one of those situations where it wouldn't have been
I
surprising.
know.
So we laughed about it later, but I
Yeah.
remember thinking, boy, did I kiss my kids and husband before I left this morning?
That's so funny. You were thinking that because I was thinking, why is there a gun on the couch? They know we coming. And I
Yeah.
need to
Well, I
make
think
sure it's
that
not
was
like
part of
a
why I was
hey,
like, is
hey,
this to
yeah,
intimidate us?
yeah.
Are they
And
trying to send a message?
right. And I thought, well, they invited us in. They knew we were coming, and it's funny because when we go into people's homes, every home is different. And so I try to be open, right? And because I don't know their family and their family history, as much until I go into their home and spend time with them if I'm invited, and to understand, this is the culture of their home, and it's not necessarily good or bad or whatever. It's just different. And who am I to say that oh, there shouldn't be a BB gun here, whatever. They felt it was safe and no one was going to get harmed, so I needed to understand and value and respect that as well, and it was okay for me to ask, and I'm glad that they received it that way. I try to ask in questions in a way that's not accusatory or anything like that.
And you did a fabulous job. Actually, that ended up being a very good experience for the family and us.
Yeah,
So
I cooked.
I,
It was great cooking with the mama.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now share one of your funniest
Oh
moments as
god.
an educator.
Yeah, it had to be. Oh yeah. So I told you I was working at this middle school. I love you guys. Love you. Miss you. If you're all listening, I love you. Miss you. So yeah. So we're in the office. We had a student in the office. It was me and the student and the principal. And middle school, we're routinely confiscating weed, alcohol, things like that, vape pens and things like that, because, they're thinking, I'm in middle school now, I can do whatever the hell I want. My family's not here, and I constantly remind them, this is not just your school. This is your mama and your daddy's school. This is your auntie and your grandma's school too. This is my school. It's everybody's school. So everybody's going to know your business. So if you're going to bring weed to school, this is what's going to happen. So the students in there, and the principal, he's looking, we're doing a backpack check because, kids clearly smells like weed, and it was reported. And so pull out this big old bag of weed, right? Big old bag of weed. And so kids proceeds to tell us that he's got a prescription from his doctor. Right? And my friends was like, well, who's your doctor? And kids like, I don't know my doctor. Well, where's the prescription? I don't have it, right? So he's like, lies through. So the principal confiscates. He's like, well, I'm gonna have to take this, and he throws it in the garbage, right? And the student is like, he's like, at the end of the conversation, we give him, we tell him like, well, you're going to be in school suspended. You're going to, spend time, with Miss Michelle, and, you're going to be working on this and that. And then we'll also have you talk to our, our family advocate who is an advocate for you. And, we'll talk about, the drugs and all this other stuff, and the why, the what and the why, and when you start using all this other stuff. So anyway, as we end the conversation, and, he knows what he's going to get, what his, consequences are. He's like, I'm going to need that weed back. And I'm like, I'm sitting in the chair, like, don't laugh. Do not laugh, world, don't laugh. And I'm like, trying my hardest not to laugh. And the principal was like, "You're not getting this back," da, 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 da. And this kid tried so hard. He
A lot of
almost was like,
money.
the principal, probably right. And so I'm like, "Sir, would you please allow me to debrief with the student in my class since we finished?" So we leave, and he's like, "Yeah." So go in my classroom. I shut the or my office, shut the door. Student sits down. And I have a great relationship with the student because I try really hard with all my students. I just start busting out laughing. I'm laughing. The door's closed. I shut my blinds. I'm like, "Hunty, Hunty, what were you thinking?" I was like, "You can't bring me to school." "Well, no, Mr. Shovel." I was like, "And you asked for it back. You ain't getting that back." But it's just so funny the fact that, how like brave sometimes these kids are. And like, there's like their brain, and sometimes they don't use their brain,
He
and
thought
it's
it
just
was a
like,
drill.
like, huh?
He thought it was a drill.
He's like, "I'm gonna need that back. This ain't no drill. This is not a confiscated weed drill, and you get it back." "You ain't getting this back."
The real
"This is a
thing. Yeah.
substance for under 21, and you can't bring it to school." But those are just one of many funny moments that we've had. And for me, like laughing with students, not at them, but with them, because they're laughing too, and helping them process, their choices and their consequences in a way that is empowering to them and helps them think, and also, is in collaboration with their parents. It was a way for me to work with these students and be like, "I get it. I get it. We in a pandemic. I get it. I understand."
A lot of money.
Understand the trauma.
A lot of money in the
Come on, baby,
trash.
you gotta find something else to help you, be able to cope. And please don't bring your weed to school again.
Yes. I'm sure just if it was a big bag, it was expensive, and that
Yeah.
alone will deter him.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
This kid. I miss those kids, but that's so funny.
so you might have already said this, like this might have been your glow moment, but finally, tell me about one of your glow moments as an educator. One of those moments where you're like, I'm living my purpose right now. This
Mhm.
moment, I know kids are getting it. I'm giving it. We are in sync.
Mhm. Yeah, it had to be all those. It's those years. Like I said, I had never been a dean before, and then the term or the title changed to student intervention coordinator, right? Because we are working with families, and I had many glow moments. One of them, was like doing home visits. Fridays was my community days, and so I went community, and I went to families' homes, and I was invited there, and it was being an honored gift in their home, and particularly families from other countries. We are honored guests in their home. And I worked really hard because some families did not trust the school system, right?
Yeah.
And so building that relationship and calling and valuing them and using interpreters, right? Or connecting families who spoke the same language with other families. And so, going into the homes, and in particular working with this home in this home with these well they she had 4 kids. I had 4 kids, and so she had one, 2, 3, 4, a set of twins, an older child, and then a younger girl. And so I worked with like all of them, 4 of them, and being invited into their home and treated as family, and offered food and stuff, and I'd sit down and, okay, get your Chromebook open, stuff like that. For me, those are glow moments. Working in collaboration and just in relationship and fellowship and breaking bread with these families is to help them understand, to help create like this relationship. Like, this is education is a it's a shared power model, right? That we are working together, whether it's in your home, I come to you, whether it's in the school or wherever. So those are well moments for me. So one time I have to tell you, the the first week I worked as a dean at this middle school, and my administrator said to me, we were standing in the office, in the front of the office, looking at the commons, and it was maybe passing period, and he looked at me and he said, "I sure appreciate your presence around here." I knew it. This is where I'm meant to be.
I am really glad that you're going to give it another year.
Yeah,
Try
I'm gonna
something
try.
different.
I gotta try again, right? If first you don't succeed, right? You try and you try again. You try in different ways. I know my gift. One of my gifts is teaching and facilitating learning. And I'm not gonna let anything or anybody take that away. I'm just gonna do it differently. I might not go back to that same classroom because I don't feel I'm the best fit, but I'm gonna be teaching somewhere, whether it's teaching through writing, right? Teaching through implementing learning in the classroom with young kids or with adults. I'll be out there. You're gonna see Michelle out there teaching all the time, every day, somewhere, somehow.
Michelle, thank you for coming on my
Oh,
podcast and being here
oh, my
today.
beautiful friend. You are most welcome and thank you for having me. We're gonna be doing lots of work in the future. So, because you're gonna be online too. I thank you for your um just your love, for your patience for me. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for holding our friendship dear all these years.
Of
I
course.
thank you for creating space to talk to me on Google Meet, from another country every Friday. I value my relationship with you, and I value your learning, and I learn from you. And I thank you for sharing your knowledge and with others and helping us in education understand that we got to do something. We got to do something to take care of each other. Or we're going to lose a lot of us, and we can't do that because our families deserve better, and we deserve better. So
I
thank
agree.
you.
Oh, my pleasure. Just as long as we can keep the lights on and I can keep paying for it, we'll keep doing it.
That's right. We got to try. Download. Everybody download this.
Subscribe.
Pass it on. Like and subscribe. Pass
That's
it
right.
on. I gotta start. Yeah.
I never understood why people put that on everything. I'm like, God, these YouTube videos. Yes. Follow,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
subscribe. Now I'm like, please
Yeah.
follow,
Yeah. Right.
like,
Like, please
subscribe.
don't.
How do I make that come up in flashing lights?
Right. How do I do that? So
I
yeah,
get it
I'm just
now.
my journey's just starting, and it's just starting, and there's catalysts that spark change, and yeah, it's there is a catalyst that sparked change in me, and you were part of that catalyst, and I just thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mhm.
I wish I
Today's episode was produced and edited by me. The theme music is by Otis McDonald featuring Joni Inez. If you know someone who might enjoy these conversations, please share the podcast episodes as much and as often as you can. It's as simple as copying the link you use to access today's episode and sending it in a message or sharing it on social media. I'm a small independent operation, and your shares broaden our audience. Perhaps you or someone you know will be inspired to talk about teacher burnout. If you would like to get your voice on my podcast, contact me via the link on my webpage, taught.buzzsprout.com. Coach, speaker, and author Rashid Ogunlaru said, "It may take many voices for people to hear the same message." Join me in being one of the many voices rising up to get the message out around educator burnout. This is Melissa LaFleur. Thank you for listening to Taught, the podcast.
I wish I knew.
I have an important reminder/disclaimer to share. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. Content provided on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. We encourage you to do your own research and consult with qualified professionals before making any decisions based on the information discussed in this or any other episode. Additionally, any opinions or statements made during the podcast are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual. Listener discretion is advised. Thank you for tuning in.